We are here today in Old Main in Galesville, and we are going to look at a fantastic photography exhibition that was done by this gentleman here, who is Wade Britzius, the famous.
Oh, thank you, Nancy.
Wade Britzius, who was the first director for WTCO, right?
Well, we call it the Trempealeau County Community Television.
Well,
WTCO is quite a new thing in my book.
Well, that's
Since
okay.
I'm so old and go back so far.
And he is a fantastic photographer. So tell us about these pictures. Why did you take them, and what was the occasion?
Well, I moved to Trempealeau County in 1971. It's almost 50, well, that is 50 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah.
My gosh, yes. And
Time flies.
I had fallen in love with documentary black and white photography some years before I moved here, and had studied and worked at it, and had some wonderful inspirations like Henri Cartier-Bresson, and I mean, names people wouldn't know, but I know some. So I was in love with documentary photography, and then I was in love with Trempealeau County and the beauty and the people and everything about it, and I decided, boy, wouldn't I love to be able to work at doing documentary photography right here in this beautiful place. And I went and talked, at some point, I was aware there was a federal work program to employ people to do things in communities. I went and talked to Clark Nixon, who was president of the Trempealeau County Historical Society, and he and I worked together to put in a grant application. And we got the grant, so I got paid $4.25 an hour.
Yes.
To spend a year, actually it didn't turn into almost 2 years, photographing the history of Trempealeau County, kind of picking up things from the past that are still here, that are disappearing. That's what I was mainly focused on, was a way of life that was disappearing.
Oh, that's interesting, yeah.
And document it as it was at the time.
Yeah.
Here's life in Trempealeau County now as a document. Now, 50 years later, it starts to look that way. Oh, gee, that's where that building was. That's what those people looked like. So I just got to work at it, and I had a lot of fun, and I worked hard, and I really got into it, and I put up exhibits in every community in the county, and I put up a big exhibit at the county fair for 2 or 3 years in a row.
Yeah. And so how long is this exhibit going to be here?
Oh, well, you know, Old Main is a little bit loose about that, but probably through the month of March in 2025.
Okay.
We can put it up at the end of January. And maybe, it just depends on how things flow here. But, you know, it's only open when there's an activity at the Old Main Center. So sometimes nobody can get in and see it.
Yeah, yeah. But what if, could they arrange to have private showings, like if a class wanted to come through or something?
I would think they could. They would have to look on probably the Old Main's Facebook page or website, and then to get a hold of somebody through the phone number there.
But it's possible.
There's a woman named Diane Thatcher, who's president of the organization, and a guy named Bruce Bender, who helped us get in today, who's here a lot. They both live in town, and they can.
Yeah, so it is possible. Well, let's jump into the pictures here.
Oh gosh, what do you want to do? I mean,
where do we start? But anyway.
I love this picture right here. This is one of my many favorites. So
this was Morris Thompson's farm in Blair.
Right out there near Lakes Cooley, if you've heard of that. You probably know where that is. But off on the side road there, and Morris Thompson had farmed there for many years. He was reaching retirement age. I even knew his son for a while, who died in a tragic accident canoeing. His son did. But this is the old way of doing it. Here's the farmstead, and they build a fence around the house.
Well, yeah, that's how you keep the chickens out.
And the cattle, and you let them go everywhere else.
Yep.
So this is the doorway, and that's the milk house, the beautiful octagonal milk house.
Yeah.
And the beautiful handmade gate and the barn there. And there's some other pictures of Morris with a load of manure and that kind of thing too.
That's beautiful. And then next here is Laurel Thompson.
Yes, Laurel they called him.
Oh, Laurel.
I knew that because he was my next door neighbor. When I lived up by Chapultepec near Ettrick. And Laurel and his wife Janice farmed there. I even milked cows for him for a week when they went on vacation once. And Janice they lived here in Galesville at the end of their lives. But I just love that the man, he's intimate with his cows. I mean, look how his hands are just relaxed. He just knows his animals. He just loves them. And, you know, they had like a step saver, so I tried to get the different technologies
Sure.
of milking. They didn't have a pipeline, they had a step saver.
Yeah,
You
well,
probably know what that
didn't
is.
save you a whole lot of steps. That was a
No,
lot
no.
of work. And
And
who's
this is Henry Nean, again,
Okay.
lived down the road between Ettrick and Blair on the side road. And there's the kitchen had a wood stove in it,
Yeah.
you know, and a water heater right
Yeah.
there out in the open. And he used to have barn dances in his barn. Or somewhere here there's a picture of the barn where there was barn dances. He had a couple of them. I haven't got to go to a barn dance.
Oh, good. A real barn dance.
Yep, that's going crooked, but
And
that's
then
all
who
right.
is the lady
This is
here?
a lady named Edna Brown. She has her home right in the city of Blair, near the AMPI milk plant.
Oh, okay.
House is probably gone now, but she still lived there. And I got a picture of her standing beside her wood stove with a water heater, hot water tank.
Is that
But
an
this
old radio?
That's an old radio. That's her
Wow.
living room.
Look how big that is.
Yeah, well, we had one of those almost that big when I was a kid, but just the decorations of the rug and everything in there.
That's great. And the table and everything.
Yep.
Now, this lady, I remember, it was Lillian Krogan, and that's her husband.
I think
right?
that's her son, actually.
Her son, Harry, is it? What is? I don't have my glasses.
Henry.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
her son. I think she lived in that trailer house, and he was there visiting her, and they're holding a
She
kitten. See him?
taught school for many, many years.
Is
She
that
taught
right?
in rural schools, and then when I was in public school here in Galesville, she was a teacher there too. So
See,
she
that's right. You
taught-
grew up here. You know some of these
She
people.
taught for a long time, yeah.
Wow.
And then these guys,
Did you ever go to the hardware store? Was it?
is that Blair?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was quite the that was a for real old
Harriet's.
hardware store.
Harriet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it Harriet Brothers? Were there brothers?
Oh, there could have been.
But
But this is Blair.
They had a wood stove, a pot-bellied wood
Yeah.
stove, which I have a picture of somewhere too, just out of the picture here. And these older gentlemen would sit around with a wood stove in the winter and tell stories.
Sure. I love all the little boxes there. That's where you've got like a certain screw or a washer.
Hundreds of little boxes with all the different sizes of screws and bolts and nuts. And
That's
That's
the
great.
old time hardware store. And then this is a lovely one.
that's,
That's just Doris Lyon's living room.
yep, we'll look at a picture of Doris Lyon in
Yeah.
a minute, but her father was Bert Gipple, who ran the Trempealeau, the Galesville Republican.
He was the editor of the Galesville Republican
many
for
years.
many years.
And this was his and her home, right in downtown Galesville.
They
One of the
lived-
buildings is still there.
Didn't they lived above the...
This was on the first floor, I
Oh,
believe,
was it?
but it was.
I know for a while they lived upstairs from the, where they had the newspaper office, but maybe...
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
This was over there. Well, another picture we'll see you can see his library. The whole wall is covered with books.
Yeah,
but
he liked to
here's
read.
this is a painting of the original mill in Galesville, and just the collections from their life of photographs. A painted picture. I'm not sure who that portrait is. And there's photographs and
It looks comfortable, doesn't it?
not the real true to life wainscoting.
Yep. It looks really comfortable.
Yep.
And here's the bank, the
bank
Bank of
at-
Trempealeau.
Bank of Trempealeau. The women, in this digital world, can you imagine it? Every little record in the bank was handwritten on a card by somebody, and they have to flip through the cards to find out your account. Just amazing. Today it seems like unimaginable, but that's the way it was. And there they are with all their pieces of paper and their little files, and 4 women running the place. And of course, that bank was managed by Mr. Trempealeau, Errol Engling.
Oh, yeah.
There's another
sure.
picture of him somewhere,
Yep.
but we won't see
Yeah, he was
that
on
today.
county board for a long time. Yeah.
That's right, yep. And there's Rick's, well, not Rick's,
The Shell Company.
the names, I used to know them so well.
Where was it?
Ben's Shell, and Ben was father of Rick is his son,
Okay.
who ran the Shell station in Ettrick.
Oh, that's Ettrick. Okay.
We haven't got time to look at all these, but here's the Hague store, which was operated
Yeah.
in the 70s there for a while.
The store is still there in Hague. It's just been remodeled.
It's a home now.
Yeah, they've turned it into apartments or something.
And it had been for a long time, but
Yeah.
not been a store. It had been a store way back when, and then it
Yeah.
was abandoned.
Forever.
And then John Marks and Katie McMahon came in and took it over and turned it into a country store again for a few years. They even had a bakery there for a while.
Didn't last forever, but it was a nifty old store. This is the picture I absolutely love, because every time I see it, it just makes me laugh.
It makes you smile. You look at it, you say, oh, there's some guys playing cards. That's up in Strum in Harry's shoe shop. Harry was a retired, I don't know what he retired from, but he opened up a shoe repair shop, a little tiny place. There's a wonderful picture of that outside somewhere. And I was in there, and these guys, again, the older gentlemen, the gathering place, would come and play cards.
There's the stove back there, right?
The wood, oh yeah, that's a, oil
Like an
stove,
oil
I bet,
heater
an
or
oil
whatever.
burner or something. But then Harry's one says, well, boys, shall we get out the glasses? And he pulls these cigar boxes off the shelf, and they got these plastic glasses with the giant plastic noses. And all these old guys, without smiling, put these things on.
I love it.
And I said, I gotta get a picture of this.
What game were they playing?
Oh God, I don't know. Whist or something, I don't know.
Oh my goodness, I just love that picture. That is
I
great.
do too, it's fun, it's really fun.
So whose milk house is
That's
this one?
that's Laurel and Janice
Laurel,
Thompson
okay.
in their barn that
Right,
I mentioned.
right.
It's so dark.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things is I used really good photographic technology at the time. I mean, some of these are very fine prints, actually. They're processed in an archival way. But now I find I put them in the computer, and I can bring out detail that I couldn't see, and I didn't have the technology to produce chemical-wise in my darkroom.
Yeah, it's
I did all
pretty
these in my
nifty.
darkroom, except these big ones. These were done digitally.
Now this couple standing by, is it an old threshing machine?
That's a corn sheller, I believe.
Oh, corn sheller?
Corn sheller.
Oh, that's Lorna and Byron Anderson. Yeah, I know them really well. Lorna was my classmate.
Yep, and she worked in the extension office for a number of years, a home economist.
That's great.
Now their son has taken over and has got
Yeah.
a big farm down there near Frenchville.
But these two people both still work so hard. You would not believe. They are just
endless. She worked on the farm, and then she'd go work in the courthouse. At the
just committed
extension.
to farming, and a great couple. And here's
that's just a kind of
like
a beautiful scenery, and,
Yeah.
and it shows the hay raking technology of the day.
an actual flat place too.
Yeah, an actual flat place. And this one here is interesting. I'm just going to point this out.
Oh yeah.
This is Gordon Deeren.
Gordon Deeren,
Who was one of the big-time farmers,
Uh-huh,
one of the biggest farmers, I think, and he just died here last week or last couple of weeks.
Recently,
at the age of 101.
Yeah.
I just saw his
He passed
obituary.
away, and that was his combine.
Yes.
And then this is the lady.
This is Doris Lyon, who we mentioned her. We saw her living room. There's Bert Gripple's library over there, and she was a very regal kind of lady. And this guy down here in this picture, he became county highway commissioner in Trempealeau County.
Who is it?
Jim. I'd have to look at the back of it.
I don't
his
future highway commissioner. Huh?
right. That's in the canning factory, in Galesville canning factory. We got a
Oh.
wonderful picture of that here somewhere.
Is that corn or beans or what?
That's
are they?
probably lima beans or something.
Oh, or peas.
Or peas.
Yeah. And this is a welding shop. I can smell it. I can just smell it.
Can't you? Yeah. That's I love
great.
hearing you say that, because there it is. That's Lyle's. What was Lyle's last name? He ran the electric welding shop for a long time. Out in the street, it looked just about like that too, with machinery and stuff out on the street and around the building. But he knew where everything was. That guy could fix anything. You bring things in, and you get every tool you'd ever need there somewhere, and every part you'd ever need somewhere too. Those wrenches are nice, hung up in a row there. But it was just kind of a beautiful thing to think that this guy who had such a messy desk could produce and knew what he was doing with every little thing.
He was really a tradesman. He was really good at what he was doing. He was wonderful.
Absolutely. And then down below him this is another picture in Galesville. Look at that old building. It's one of the oldest buildings on the square. You know what that is now?
Is that the common, Garden of Eating?
Yep, that's the Garden of Eden
That's right.
restaurant. Yep.
And what is it in this picture? Is it?
It's a grocery store.
That's the old grocery store.
Pleasing
my
grocery
mom.
store.
shop there all the time.
Oh, that's right. Your mom was just
Yep.
outside of Galesville.
It had a wooden floor that was really creaky. I remember that.
Oh my gosh.
Whose place is
Well,
this?
this is where the people who run the Garden of Eden
Live
live
yeah.
down here. It's a wonderful, it's just kind of a unique building.
Yeah.
You know, right.
It's on
kind of-
Front Street.
Is that the name of it? Yeah, the street.
Yeah, and that's really an old one. I think that's got to be one of the oldest buildings
I
in,
bet.
in Galesville.
It is an old
yeah.
one. Yeah, yeah. And
been around
they've
a long
remodeled it. It
time.
looks a lot different now.
Yeah.
It's got a nice
But it's old.
entryway over here. Yep.
And there's the fair.
This one, some people think this is quite a special picture because the people who have the Garden of Eden Preservation Society
Yeah.
and the Arnold House, they really wanted a copy of this because it shows the old wooden grandstand
Yep.
at the fairgrounds that it's been long gone for quite a
Yeah.
while and was a wonderful old building. It was in the basement. The whole back end of that building is where I had the big photo shows.
Yes.
The bottom part of it.
Yep, underneath the grandstand,
There was a
they
big
used to have
display space.
exhibits there during the fair. It was where they put the sewing and the vegetables.
This is a tractor pull
Yeah.
happening, and then there was actual horse racing on
Yeah,
the
we
track.
had an actual track.
Oh, that's right. You all know about the horses.
Yeah, I
they had
remember all
harness
that.
racing and they had
Yeah.
individual races.
Mainly it was harness racing, but sometimes for fun they would have like, you know, sit down on the horse type races too, and there could be kids races or whatever. It was a lot of fun.
And this is a lady, I'm kind of sad that during this exhibit recently, nobody knows who she is.
Oh, I know who she is.
Do you know her?
Edith Bartlett, isn't
Edith
it?
Bartlett. You see, you're old enough, you know her, but some
Well,
other
she
people.
was this really around town. Seemed like everybody knew her when I was little.
Everybody, and she was the historian of Galesville. So when I started this project, people said, you got to go talk to Edith.
Yeah.
And she pulled out box after box with all these newspaper clippings
Yeah.
and things about history of Galesville. And she's the one who told me where the pine tree still stood that was the original pine tree that Galesville was platted from.
Oh, where they made the survey.
Made the survey from,
made it off
surveyed
the
from
survey,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's there anymore.
I know, I don't either.
No.
But I went and found what she described to me. I don't know if it was the second generation or
Yeah.
the original tree, but it was, you know, when you're coming across that big bridge going into Galesville
Yeah.
from the highway, just on this side of the bank, where the bridge starts, to the left is where that pine tree was.
On the
that
left,
that she told
okay.
me about. Yes, and I went and found it.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that interesting?
And this is up
Back
in
now we're jumped to
Blair.
Blair again. This is the plumber named Harlan Larson,
Look at all the deer heads up
who
there.
is obviously quite a hunter. Deer heads,
Oh my
deer
gosh,
antlers,
look
a
at that.
gigantic
Look
display
there.
everywhere, guns. Yeah, he was a very avid hunter and a
Wow.
pipe smoker, constant pipe smoker. And there he is in his shop with all his bins of parts, and fun guy to talk to.
Yeah. And I remember this. It used to be in Galesville, it was the Coast to Coast store. It was a hardware store when I was a kid.
Yep.
And then upstairs they had the dentist. And
Were they? Did they really? Yeah.
They had the old telephone thing where the operators were plugging in your.
Somebody just mentioned that, and some of the wiring for that is still up in the attic.
I bet
Somebody
it
just
is.
mentioned that this weekend.
I bet it is. It was a big building.
It's apartments up there now.
Okay, yeah.
And, you know, there's a couple of shops in there, and
Yeah,
shops
it's right
on
on
this
the
side.
corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tracy,
Big,
what's her
beautiful
name,
building.
owns it, yeah, and has kept it up and
And
modernized
who's
it.
the horses here? I don't.
This is during the Bicentennial celebration. That's the mayor of Galesville at the time. What's his name? Is it on there? Can you read it? Mayor Myers.
Ralph Meyer?
Yep, Ralph
Yeah.
Myers. Yep, and so here's people on their horses listening to the mayor give a little speech. To me, this was a taste of the time. In 1976, there were celebrations in pretty much
Sure, it
every
was
community.
the Bicentennial, right?
Yes.
The big Bicentennial, you bet.
200 years of America, you betcha.
And I remember this guy, Albert Coos, I think.
You knew him? Oh.
Well, a little bit. I think it was because my husband had met him. He'd had some bees on his property or
really?
something.
Oh.
And he liked to visit with Albert. And then Albert eventually was in the Blair nursing home, and I think that was where he passed away.
Oh, really?
But he was a sweet old guy. He had never married, and he was kind of just living out there by himself.
Yep, up near the Ettrick Rod and Gun Club.
Yep.
Just a twinkle in his eye. You
Yes.
can kind of see it on his face there. He just
Yeah.
was a I mean, I didn't know him very well, but some people like your husband would like to visit him. I know somebody else who visited him a lot, and that he was really fun to talk to.
Yeah, he was.
He was just a sweet,
neat old guy.
neat old guy. And didn't he have an old car he drove to town, like an old 1910 or something? I think
he probably did.
I think he was famous for that a little bit too.
That. But he had never married, and he lived with his mother. And then after his mother passed away, he was there by himself. And, you know, he'd worked hard all his life. He was kind of bent over and everything, but interesting guy.
He's got his axe here for splitting wood.
Oh, yeah.
His chainsaw there.
Took care of himself.
And standing in the shadow of his older sheds there.
Yep.
That was fun to talk to him.
And then
This just shows some of this, here in Galesville, some of these two buildings I'm sure are gone. That was the old livery stable or something way back when.
Was that Hilt's garage?
It might be.
Yeah.
I think I can't see
I think
a
that's
name.
gone. But that Hilt's garage was the oldest building in Galesville for a long time.
This little brick building and this big brick building are still here. This is where Cheryl Reedy has her real estate office now. And this little building has been modernized into something.
It's neat because, you know, we should go down and take pictures now because in 10 years, it's going to be all different.
The before and after pictures, some of those are very popular with people.
Okay, and here we have...
Odsma, George Odsma, and I don't know his wife's name.
He was quite the wood carver.
No, that's some of his work there. He called himself a chip carver, and he would carve little triangular spaces. And if you could see that picture frame up close, it's all decorated with lots of little places. He hollowed out little things, looks like a waffle or something. But he loved that, and he was very patriotic. And he was very Dutch, with a very thick accent.
He was from Holland.
Yes.
Yeah.
And his wife too. And I've got another close-up picture of them that I really like.
And he did a good example of his art was the altar at the First Presbyterian Church in Galesville. He had carved all that. It's beautiful. He was super talented guy.
Just to say about this exhibit, there's probably 100 photographs in this room right now. And I mounted on this size cardboard here 900 photographs.
Oh my goodness.
So this is just a strong taste. These are some of what I consider the more interesting, the best. Or these are also the ones that relate to southern Trempealeau County, because I figured that's who would come to this exhibit most likely. And I picked some of my favorites at one point to make these big enlargements, which Ashley Furniture helped finance making these big enlargements. I did the work, but they helped pay for the materials. And these are laminated, so they'll last a long time.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
It's a lot of work. I went to Madison, and I had a friend who had printing set up in his basement for giant prints.
Wow.
So that was amazing. So so where should we go? Here,
let's start with the big ones.
The big ones are probably the best ones to get close-ups on, or individual shots of. But so this is in
the canning factory.
The canning factory, Gale Packing Company. And I just thought this was a lovely picture. Here's look at the big boilers back there. And then his guy's maintenance of this, and I'm not sure what her job was, but she's got temptation written across her chest. And I just think it's a wonderful shot. I'm sure there's a little playful energy for them. I just mean in an innocent sense.
Oh, here's the picture that I pointed out when I first got up here today to Kevin. This was the Sheriff's Department, correct?
Yeah, that's the Trempealeau County Sheriff's Department. The sheriff, I believe, is the guy in the back there.
In the doorway.
In the doorway. His name is on the list there. I should probably name him. I don't have my glasses on. I can't.
But it looks a little different than it does today.
The sheriff, and then the two investigators, and the jailer. I wish I'd taken better pictures of the building itself. Was quite unique. It was a separate building down by the road, separate from the main courthouse buildings. But I think this fellow maybe became the sheriff in later years.
But that's a beautiful shot.
Here's the dispatch right there. He's got the radio and the whole thing.
The 911 center, the whole thing. Huh?
There it is, right there. And here's this is
the county.
Register of Deeds.
Oh, okay.
and his name is?
I'm trying to read.
You're not reading those so well. I better get my glasses.
I know.
out.
I thought you had your glasses.
Well, you know, I set them down.
There you go.
I used to
Put
know.
them back on so we can read
I'm
it.
assuming you're going to edit some of this out, but his name is Lester Brenham. Lester Brenham.
Yes.
And then in the background, leaning in the doorway, which makes the picture interesting, is Nancy Knutson.
Okay.
She worked in the courthouse for about 40 years, just retired.
Yeah.
In various jobs. She worked in the DA's office
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah, I remember. I don't remember him real well, but I do remember because he was there for a long time, very long time. And this one.
That one, you can tell us
Well,
about
I
that
know
one.
that one because that's the church I go to. That's Foggerness, and we've done things on that. We had
One of the
a
most beautiful,
cemetery walk, and
one of the most beautiful country churches around.
it is, and we're still open. We're down to a pretty small membership, but we're still there. So
Just down the road from the church where this family
they were
lived.
my neighbors. I remember them. Sure.
What's their name? The what family?
The Slavics. This is Don Slavic and his wife and his kids.
4 children.
Yeah, and the 2 little ones.
Yeah.
Picture.
They're hard working. You can see their shirts are dirty and their clothes are simple.
Yeah,
and
they're ready for anything, aren't they? That's a great picture. I love that. And this fellow, I knew it would be like his nephews, the Husmoen.
he lived right at the bottom of Helsted Coulee on
Yeah.
County Road
D.
D. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
He was kind of about a mile from my house
Yeah.
at the time. But that's historic to show the way they used to harvest wood for.
Oh, the
heating
giant
with
wood
wood.
pile.
Yeah, and the pieces of wood can be 6 to 10, 12
Yeah.
feet long because you'd have a big buzz saw and cut them. You didn't cut them with a chainsaw.
And I just love the look on it. He's really a strong look, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's a great.
Strong, and the bib overalls, the
And
hat,
the cats.
the whole bit.
I know.
The classic Norwegian farmer.
Yep. Yeah, that is you really captured a lot there.
And the old building and the landscape and the wood and the cats and the salt lick and
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff. I tried to get lots of stuff in the pictures.
Yeah.
I love these environmental in portraits. It's not just him, it's
Right.
the environment.
The whole thing. The whole.
Yeah.
Now,
And this one's too dark, of course. This is the Pigeon Falls Church that's burned down.
the
little
old one, the
Yeah.
old Lutheran church. You
Yeah.
bet. Yeah.
We did a whole,
Beautiful.
with Olin Finwright, we did a whole Discover Trempealeau County show about this church. And there's a very special chandelier here that came from Norway.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wonder if that made it through the fire. Probably not.
Probably not. Maybe a twisted metal. This is hilarious. The Gilbertson Meyer department store in Galesville. You got 2 pictures here of it. That building is still open and for business now,
Right.
and there's some people have made some wonderful use of it. But the owners had traveled to Tahiti many times, and they had brought things back. So this is the Tahiti room, believe it or not, in the basement of the general store in Galesville, Wisconsin. The Tahitian room, and they would sit down there in their breaks and so on. And they got
See, what I remember going to the basement, the Gilberts and Myers, was to get shoes.
Yep, I got a picture somewhere here of a
Yeah.
boots lined up in the
Yep,
basement of that store.
was where
Again,
you
that's
went
not
to get shoes.
on display right now.
And then here's a couple up by, they were over by Ettrick, weren't they?
Yep,
Marge and Colette.
yep. If I dare say, some of the first lesbians who lived together openly at the day at the time.
Yeah.
And they had a little farmstead over there near
I like the
Ettrick.
cow's head there. It's just kind of coming
Yeah,
out of
yeah.
the darkness, isn't it?
Yeah, sitting in their elevator, their hay elevator.
Yeah.
Marge and Colette.
Yep.
And again, this is a picture that if I put it into digital form, I can bring out. You can see the cow a little better. And you see
But I
the
kind of
cow.
like it. It's like the head is just kind of
It
floating
shines
there.
out there. Yeah. It is kind of cool. And this is that library I mentioned in other pictures of Doris Lyon's home. You can see the whole library. That's this beautiful room with a spinning wheel and
With
so
the,
on.
and the braided rug. Oh, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's kind of old-fashioned because they were kind of dark
Oh,
rooms, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
As far as a lot of lighting. And her dad, Bert Gipple, he was known all over the state. He was kind of one of those.
Was he really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I
He's
know
one
he
of
was-
those old-fashioned small town newspaper editors. He was quite the guy. Yeah.
A Renaissance man.
Yeah, really. He was very interested in Abraham Lincoln. He had all kinds of books on Lincoln, and he was I don't remember just vaguely.
Did you know him? Did you meet him?
No, well, probably.
Your mom probably knew him.
Yeah, I think everybody, we'd go in like once a year to renew our subscription for the newspaper. But yeah, I was a pretty little kid. But I do remember he was really well known. Oh, this is a beautiful barn down by Dodge.
Yeah, no, that one was sitting out there, kind of sticking out all by itself. There's no farmstead around it.
Yeah.
That's all that was left of the old farmstead is that beautiful barn. And I just thought, that's a classic. It shows the old barn. It shows the way it's put together. You see the framing. You see it breaking down, the cracked stone foundation. And it was just beautiful to me. So I had a nice portrait of it. It's a portrait of a barn, if you will.
But this with the hands.
There's the hands that go. We talked about Melvin Hoosmowing.
The hands that go with Melvin Hoosmowing.
Look at those hands.
Yeah.
His hands that did the farm work, the heavy work, but some other hands did this incredible patch on his stitching on his 2 layers of patches. Looks like
I think it's actually 3. It's like 1, 2, 3.
So one patch gets wore a hole in the center of it, so you put another patch on it.
You put a patch on the patch. You didn't throw things away.
That's right.
You just kept using
incredible,
them.
isn't it? It's just incredible.
Yeah, it really is. And who would have thought that 50-some years later that jeans with big holes in them are fashion?
That's hilarious. Yeah.
A fashion
The hands would get large from lots of work, right?
Yeah.
And you remember Francis Foss came to work in the TV studio as a retired person, and with his great big hands, I taught him to run the computer and to record video programs. And
he was a great guy.
He was an accordionist.
Yes, musician. And he'd been a Marine in World War II, I think, wasn't he?
He was one of the first people into not Hiroshima, but the other one after the atomic bomb.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't talk about it much.
No.
He saw
Nagasaki.
Nagasaki, I believe that's where it was. He saw some...
Interesting guy.
Yeah. Here we are at the AMPI cheese plant in Blair.
Okay.
And they had a gazillion miles of pipelines in there. And so
Look at them all.
And a maintenance crew that worked on them all the time. Yep. And there's Paul Helderson. He's the young guy in there with his father. He's, one of the big-time farmers here in Galesville. Right. The guy who was on the county board, he was on the school board.
Right, that's Paul. He has the dairy farm.
Yep,
Yeah.
right on the edge of town.
But this is the one we're both admiring. This is the old wood stove, cook stove.
It's Edna Brown in Blair again. That's her wood stove in her house. All neat and shiny and clean and hooked up for a hot water tank.
Yeah.
Really impressive system there.
This is a big reservoir for hot water. That is impressive.
And I was in a farmhouse up by Pigeon Falls, and I don't remember too much about it, but I love this picture that I happened to catch. That's the old living room with flowers and the handmade, what do you call that? Lacework on the tablecloth.
But he's sitting out on the porch.
The guy out there contemplating on the porch, being contemplative on the porch.
Yeah, that's a great one.
This is that pot-bellied stove in the Harriet's
everybody used
hardware
to sit
store.
around,
Everybody used to sit around that. And here's thrashing up at Chapultepec.
Oh, right. Are you in that picture then?
Well, I worked with those guys in that crew there thrashing. We can arrive just in time to when neighbors were still thrashing. We got to get together with the neighbors and do some oat thrashing, and that shows some of the feeling of that.
And the picture up there, that's Wimpy Larson. He used to be an auctioneer, didn't he?
No, he didn't. He was a farmer.
Oh, okay.
There might have been some other auctioneer, but one of the things that's classic about that is the milk cans. People put their milk in cans, and the cans were hauled to town. That's old technology. But new enough that he had rubber tires on the cart.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
And his dog and his Farmall H.
I love his dog. His dog is just Foursquare there. That's a great picture.
And that is and he was a fun guy, real jovial.
He looks like it.
Yeah.
And then House High on the Hill place.
This guy's name is Donald Weir. That's outside of Galesville,
Oh, okay.
back by the orchards back there.
Oh, sure. And
Yeah,
there
he
is
built this little tiny
behind the
place,
sign.
kind of like a tiny
Yeah.
house up on the hill. House, and he put up that sign, and there he was. I don't know.
I like this lady. Oh, my
There's the
gosh.
Trempealeau County Fair. Did you know this lady?
No, I didn't. I don't.
Mary Lund. She lived over there by there's a church over there. What's that church? And
In Galesville?
off of Highway 93 on the way to, over by Roy's store.
Oh, Tamarack.
Tamarack Church.
Yeah.
She lived right by there. She was the cat lady who ran the cat show at the county fair every year, and she would crown a king cat
Yep.
and a queen cat every year at the fair. So she's holding the king and the queen there. And there's my photo exhibit in the background.
Oh, great. Oh, we can,
That's how
yeah,
there's
they're
the
Slavic.
Slavic family, and the Tahitian room.
I love that. She's just so happy there.
And here we are at one of the last round barns, especially
Yep.
in
That's gone.
Dan Byam and his grandfather
Gus.
Gust.
Yeah.
And they had just remodeled the old round barn, and Dan was going to take it over and start farming in it. So you got new cable, new chains and stanchions here in this round barn. Here's a picture of the round barn
Right. It
down
was
below.
beautiful.
And here's a picture of their corn crib, the same farm. That was a big day for them, and I was really happy to get that picture.
Yeah. And Dan, as far as I know, is still farming. And he and Byron and Lorna Anderson, they are in-laws.
Yeah.
His daughter married their son. Yeah, see, it all fits together.
It all fits together. and Judy Byam, who's is married to Dan's brother, runs this gallery that we're in.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds
Connections,
of
lots of connections. Who's
one
the
one
lady
time-
with tobacco?
Huh? And tobacco, yes. At one time, a lot of people in
Daisy
Trempealeau County.
Davidson, yeah.
Daisy Davidson.
She lived down the valley from me.
Yep, on the way to Blair, out by
Yep.
Fagerness out
Yep.
there. She and her son Danvers in this picture, and some friends. They still raised tobacco for some income. At that time,
Yeah.
it had mostly gone away in Trempealeau
Yeah.
County, but at one time, especially to the northern part of the county, a lot of people had made living,
Yeah.
partial
Wrapper
living.
tobacco. It was wrapper tobacco.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. Okay.
Yeah.
They had-
Well, yeah, it's not premium tobacco like you grow down, you know,
you
North
put the good stuff
Carolina.
inside and wrap this
Yeah,
up in the
yeah.
outside of a cigar or something.
But it was so much work. Oh, talk about work intensive. Oh,
They had
boy.
to put all those leaves on spears and hang
Yep.
them up in a drying shed. I did visit some guys putting tobacco out to dry one time, and that is labor, yes.
And then at a certain time of the year in the winter, if you had the right kind of day, you had to take it down and strip it, you know. It was just so much work. It was incredible.
That's what people used to do. And here's ladies working in the canning factory in Galesville, picking out the bad beans or
It
peas.
must be
or what.
peas. They used to
I
do
think
peas
they
when
did
I
peas
was
there,
in high
and
school.
okay.
And there's Marv Camp.
Marvin Camp, and
Yeah.
that's the same. Well, there's a photograph of thrashing on this field,
Yeah.
but here it's raking the hay
Yeah.
with the old-fashioned rake, and that's our farm all
Oh, that's neat.
420, I think it was. But yes.
Oh, and here is
There's that same picture we
yeah,
saw
that's
before. That's the big version
Laurel
of it.
and
Laurel
Janice
and Janice
Thompson.
Thompson.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was talk about work, dairy farming. We were just talking about that's why older people that are still alive today that were dairy farmers don't have any knees or hips left. It was tough work.
Yeah, that's the story. Oh,
Yeah.
man, talk about work, yes. Hay and there's Old Main.
This is where we are. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
up there. There's Old Main.
There's the old porch that was before the porch got remodeled.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's distinctly different on the outside. And there's the Main Street in Ettrick.
That's
one.
Ettrick.
There's a bar that's been there forever, and there was a restaurant, I
Yeah,
think. And,
yeah.
yep. And
So-
people had to vote. They were voting,
Yeah.
obviously. And there's the voting booths in Ettrick, Wisconsin.
There wasn't any computer things then, were there?
Piece of paper. I think
Yep.
that's the Smith. Maybe that's Linda Smith and Charles Smith, and that's their
That's
daughter.
their legs?
I think, yeah, they're their legs of. And there's the building that is gone. That was a beautiful building, and I don't know why they tore that down.
Yeah, that was
Ettrick.
the community center in Ettrick, and that's always been a discussion. It's kind of a sore point with people why it got torn down and that.
Yeah, I wonder.
Because I think they got the money to build it back in the 30s, or it was like a CCC project or
Yeah, I
something.
think it's CCC. I believe that was
Yeah.
on the sign.
And it was a nice building.
Yeah, they
And
must
then-
not think so. And that's Lyle, the welder in Ettrick. He's at work there. You see him welding.
Yeah.
Again, that print's kind of funny, but
I love it.
There's-
I bet he could find something in there just like that.
pieces. There's a certain kind of metal, certain weight
Yeah.
and shape that he needed. Yep.
And
yep.
it was there.
Here's
remember.
working on the barn cleaner.
Sure.
The barn cleaner is having some problems, and the two brothers, Francis
Yep.
and Arnold Solberg,
Yep.
had big farms right next to each other, down there near the French Creek Church,
Right.
up the valley behind there.
Yeah.
There they are. There's Arnold and Francis, and
Yeah, his daughter was my classmate. Well, I mean, she still is. But
Arnold,
Yeah.
Francis's daughter.
nice people and a beautiful farm.
Yeah,
Just
gorgeous.
a beautiful farm.
There's some pictures on, I believe it's Arnold's farm. No, one of them. There was a grape growing section way up high on the hill on
Oh
one of the
yeah,
ridges.
that was Arnold. Yes.
Is that Arnold?
That
Okay.
was way
Yes,
up on the
yes,
hill.
yeah.
And we should
Okay.
quick look at the ones in the center here.
Oh yeah, the Ettrick Woolen Mill. We haven't got time to look at all of them.
Look at that.
The
yeah.
Bennett Valley Church up near.
And that's still
Strom
there.
and
That's
Leva.
up in
Yep.
Bennett Valley, up
Yep,
by
yep.
Oliva. Yeah.
Here's the healthcare center building that's
The
now
original,
long gone. The
yeah.
original county hospital.
Yep, the original one. That was built around 1900, I believe.
Yep.
And that was the woolen mill in
Yep.
Ettrick.
Yep.
Well, that and Lake Chapultepec are long gone.
Lake Chapultepec?
Yeah. You remember the lake they had there?
No.
Yes.
Where? Oh, by the Ettrick Woolen Mill?
Ettrick, yeah.
I didn't know they called it Chapultepec.
Yeah, that was Lake
Lake.
Chapultepec.
Now that's a new one on me. I'm glad to hear that. And here's some pictures from Trempealeau. The most noticeable one, this is the legal office now of Don Hellrung. But this one is the Melchoir Brewery.
Brewery, yeah. Yeah.
Actually, the brewery, there's a stone building that's a brewery and a brick building that was a hotel way
Right.
back when.
Yep, and I've told people that he and his wife, they were Germans. And they had 5 daughters, and they were noted because the daughters were all kind of plump. And that was back in the days when people didn't have a lot of extra flesh. They really didn't.
Oh, that's funny, yes. And this is inside a round barn near Centerville. They show the beautiful wood
Look at
framing
that.
inside there.
Oh, gorgeous.
And this one, I think, is really interesting. This is Schwertel
Oh, sure.
Farms that now
Yeah.
has a great big setup. They did a
Yep.
fantastic fall, they raise
Yeah.
squash and
Right.
pumpkins and all that, and sweet corn, and
Yeah.
they have a huge setup now.
Yeah.
And this is how they started, with a wagon pull out in the out in
Humble
front.
beginnings.
Humble beginnings. Yeah, yeah.
And this fellow's in Strum.
Yeah, I just met him on the street and snapped his picture, you might say. His name is Reinhard Skahl.
I want to reach over there and untwist his.
The strap on his overalls. Yep. He's smiling though, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. That's a great picture. And it
then-
shows downtown Strum.
Yep. And right above it is the
barber.
shop in Galesville. That's Anderson, what's his first, Dave maybe, that used to run the feed mill.
Yeah.
And he's getting his hair cut. And that's the old gas station in Trempealeau. The building is still open.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That was operated by the chair of the county board for many years. Oh,
It
darn, I know him
doesn't
so
narrow
well.
it down.
Here's a really interesting one. I want you to see if you can get a shot of this. This is, nobody knows what that is. Hardly anybody has been able to tell me what that is. And it's in the village of Strum, right next to the railroad tracks, and they call it the pickle station.
Oh,
People actually
Grew pickles.
Grew
yeah.
pickles and
Right.
sold them in such a volume that they would fill, these things
Yep.
are like 10 feet across, these wooden barrels.
Yeah.
And I don't know, 6 or 10 feet deep. They must have filled them with pickles, and then somehow they put them on a train to, they had to pick little cucumbers that
Yeah,
were pickle
the
size.
smaller the cucumber, the
more
more money you got for them. That was
Yeah,
a lot of
isn't that
work,
amazing?
too, as I recall.
This is a fellow who I just met by his house in
Milo Whipple?
Milo Whipple.
Yeah, I love that. Because,
Older gentleman.
suspenders are kind of back in, too, I guess, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Everything
Cool
comes
hat.
around.
Everything comes around. Oh gosh. Oh, here's Harry's shoe shop we talked about Harry's shoe shop and the guys. This is a good
Where
picture.
was that?
That's in downtown Strum.
Oh, okay.
Well, downtown.
Wasn't very big, was it?
Wasn't very big at all. And he made those fancy things that blew in the wind.
Ah, the whirligig types.
Yeah, whirligigs. That was a fun, intriguing place. And
And these fellows.
there's a couple of guys out in the country by Blair.
Joseph Otterson, and this was a Nean, Jerome Nean.
Jerome, yeah.
I love that. It was a nice portrait. They didn't get all dressed up for it.
No, they sure didn't.
No, they looked.
They were out there working on something. And this is kind of a fun one for the time, for the Bicentennial in 1976. That was the Hoosmoon Farm.
Uh-huh.
Famous farm, has been in beautiful farm, up by Fagerness, sort of.
Yes, yep.
That's been on many agricultural magazine
yeah.
covers because it's so
Right.
beautiful. But you see there it says, milk the udder cola, drink milk the udder cola. Udder. Okay, la-di-da.
Who's the guy with the chainsaw?
Roger Peters. His family just asked me about getting a copy of that this week. He's just an artist with that chainsaw. I watched him cut down a couple trees.
Yeah.
Just whiz, big trees. He knew what he was doing. Man, how to cut down a tree. And
Here's a good interior shot showing how you milked.
yeah, that was a successful milking operation. They obviously had a milk, what do you call it, line.
Oh, yeah. Pipeline. Yeah.
Milking. And as neat as a pin, kind of a place with about 50 cows, I bet.
I'm trying to read
35.
the name here. Fred Nearing. Okay, yeah.
Oh, Fred Nearing.
Yeah,
Oh,
look at that.
okay.
Beautiful. Clean barn, clean cows. It's
Yep.
really nice. And there's how the cows, there's the cow lane.
Yeah, that's a pretty picture, but I don't think you come across too well on TV. But yeah, it shows the erosion and the old fences
Yep.
in the countryside. Lots of windmills were remaining.
yeah.
Once in a while, you still see one nowadays.
Yep. Yeah, they were
here's-
quite the innovation.
Here's some of my things that I thought were just real interesting visually. An old beat-up wall of a barn, and the cows out there, and an old manure spreader on an Amish.
yeah.
That's an Amish farm there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a really old manure spreader,
Huh.
really early vintage.
All the texture and the lines.
That's right. There's a lot of textures and lines in these. And this one too. That's the Lutheran Church in Taylor.
Oh, okay.
Taylor Lutheran Church.
Yeah.
And
And the water cistern here, I remember this one
yeah, that's
too.
again over by Dodge. I just was intrigued by that.
Yeah,
Because most places, the water cistern would be underground.
yeah.
And here that's an above ground water cistern. I don't know how it handled the freezing temperatures in the winter, but
Well, I think that was how a lot of people cooled the milk. They put things down in the water. There'd be like a spring in there, and there'd be a tub, and you put the cans
well,
in
that
there.
one, I imagine was a big storage tank
Yeah.
for water for the house, but I do not know for sure. This one again is kind of intriguing. Can you imagine what that is?
He had hounds, I'll bet.
This? You
Yeah.
think those are dog houses?
Yeah.
Well, this is on an Amish farm.
Okay.
I had one Amish farm where they let me in, so to speak. My theory is that that's where the kids played. Those are little things for the kids. There's not dog tracks there. There's.
Yeah, well, that
Other
could
kinds
be.
of
They
tracks,
look
yeah.
like dog houses,
I know they do. It's a mystery.
And this one, the old cabin or whatever down
Shows
by
the
Dodge.
log construction.
Look at that.
And the log construction of
Yeah.
the settlers almost goes way back quite a ways.
Those were some big logs too. Look at them.
Yeah, and the beautiful joinery in the corners.
Yeah.
It's pretty
It was a real
impressive, amazing stuff.
Work of art. It
Yep,
really was.
Yep.
And this one, we knew it was 20 to 10, huh?
That's in the dairy barn, actually. That's Janice and Laurel Thompson again. But the radio where you listen to while you're working milking the cows, and it's tied up with baler twine, and the clock is crooked, and there's cobwebs all over. That was, and the funny wiring. That's the classic, hard-working
Dairy barn. You bet. yeah, everything was always tied up with baler twine. I remember that. And this fella too.
This is one of my favorite pictures. I think it's classic of the farmer, the man in his overalls, but it's a beautiful photograph too. The black and white. It just shows the countryside. It shows the buildings. It shows the steps. It shows the man, and it's just gorgeous. For photographers, it's a gorgeous picture. But
and that was Alphonse Gabrish, right?
Yes, Alphonse, who lived at the foot of Whistle Pass.
Oh, sure.
And he said, I was talking to him, he said, I've been farming for 90 years. I said, 90 years? What do you mean? He said, I've been farming alone, doing the work of 3 men for 30 years.
Oh, dear.
And here he is again out by, he lived in this big, beautiful brick house his parents had built. And he lived there, he was a bachelor, lived there by himself after the parents died. And this was the house out back, maybe the original house or something that was about ready to fall into the gully.
That's interesting. We had just done a program this summer on west, we called it west of Whistle Pass, where you come down off Whistle Pass.
West of Whistle Pass. Well, that would be him.
Yeah,
over there. His house has now been modernized and some lived in by somebody else.
Yeah.
So this, in terms of how things were at the time, this is probably the biggest farmer in the county at that time, or one of them for sure. And that's one of the biggest tractors you would have found in the countryside at that time.
And who is it?
And I'm going to get the name. I know him, Tom Waldera.
Oh, Tom Waldera?
He's been at the party at your house.
He's still around.
He's still around, yes.
This is a younger version, that's all.
He sold out to a sand mine, didn't he?
Yeah.
He moved into town, yeah.
And then the Redsteins up here.
Here's the Redsteins up again, you're in French, the valley by French Creek.
Yeah.
That's, to me, it shows the classic kitchen of the day,
kitchen,
the metal
you bet.
kitchen. Look at that, the cupboards, the whole works.
I know, right down to the pot holders that are hanging on the wall. I know
Norwegian
that
patterns,
kitchen.
Norwegian.
I know that kitchen.
Yep.
That's a great one.
And then if you go straight up above, to the left, that's Jensen's restaurant.
Oh, downtown Galesville.
Downtown Galesville, that's now the Common Market.
Right.
There's Philip Jensen's mother. I can't remember her name, but I knew Philip was a fixture in Galesville for many years.
Right.
And off to the right is again the working women at the Lefse factory, Countryside Lefse.
Well, that must have been a while ago then.
It's about 110 degrees in there, with all those burners going. And those women were working, boy, they worked hard. Just running that roller back and forth hour after hour.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
And here are the kids with the sleds.
Yep, that's outside of Osseo.
That was up by Osseo.
Yeah, they are.
Well, that is
Country living.
something we can't do this year. We don't have enough snow, but what a nice shot.
Yeah.
Used to spend a lot of time doing that when I was a kid.
Well, by golly, we get all the way around.
I think we're all the way around. Well, wait, here's the guy by his, is it a hay rake?
Yep.
Oh, this is the one. This guy was my neighbor for many years, Alfred Narveson, long since passed away, but he farmed up there on Square Bluff.
Yep.
And I remember Alfred.
He still had some real old equipment that he was still kind of keeping going when I met him, and
he
got
did.
a couple pictures of him with the old equipment.
The story was that his mother, he's quite elderly in this picture, that his mother, Tina, was still alive, and she was She must have been close to 100, but she actually was the one that owned the farm. And so he did not invest a whole lot in new equipment because he was not farming on really what was his farm.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? So
Yeah,
he held
that was
back
the
a little
story.
bit and
Yeah.
eventually just
Yeah.
gave it up. And
Yep.
I think I met him after he said I had to sell the farm. He sold
Yeah.
the farm and
Yeah. He just
moved into town,
the
which,
kids weren't interested, and so he and his wife moved into town.
so you see a lot of the one level of farming in here that was passing away. People
Yeah.
couldn't make a living with just a
Right,
few
the small
cows
farms.
and some older equipment.
Right.
It just didn't add up. And it's been going to the present day.
Yeah.
For the last 50 years, the farmers have been losing out and the small farms
Right.
have to give up and the big farms buy up the land, and it's still happening today.
Yeah, that was the trend. You're
There's
right.
very few farmers left.
And you caught it at a real transitional time.
I think so, and I was, yes, and I was fascinated by these older people and their stories and their machinery and the whole works. Yes.
Well, this has been great. I'm so glad you shared this with us. And we want to remind people that this exhibit will be here for a couple more months, hopefully.
Through March, maybe into April. Hint.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they should really come by and enjoy this. And I suppose how they would find out about it is, would they go to the Old Main website or?
Yep, or the Facebook page. You know, they have both of those where they announce their events. And they can come here and hear a concert at some event for $10 and then come and enjoy the show and have some
By all
cookies and
means.
bars, you know,
Yeah.
and have a good time.
This is a great
There's
thing.
a lot of nice things going on in this beautiful old building.
So this has been a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it as
I
much
did.
as
I did. It was a gas. I like it because you know a lot of things I don't know. You're old enough. You know a lot of these
Well,
people
I
and
just
things too.
remember a lot of these people, because right when you were doing this, you know, that was when I was in my 20s and, you know, getting around and working hard. And so,
You're still getting around.
Well.
Well, thank you and Kevin for coming out and doing this.